It's Laura here from Healing with Spirit, or my former legal name, Laura Benetsky Joseph. And this is on the Clancy case. And I'm commenting on it now because I have been hugely triggered by the trial, and I didn't know why until the last couple days when I was able to sit and process what was happening. Today is a full new moon with a solar eclipse, so I am hoping that my vulnerability is well received in what I'm about to share. What stands out in the case is Patrick Clancy, who has never been apparently investigated or charged with the crime, and everything I say is alleged. I find some consistency in that case and what happened to me when I left my abuser, with the same court, the same elected DA, and I don't know, I haven't had a chance to check, but to see if the chief of police who covered up and had assault and battery records and crime photos of my assault and battery disappear, if he is still the chief of police of Duxbury. I don't know. I have to go look at my records because there are some gaps that I have to go verify. But here's the gist. The gist is this, that I see parallels. Patrick Clancy profited off of this, and not just by a little. He profited immensely, and I'm going to share with you the parallels, okay? Because I left my abuser in 2005, and I was dealt with the Plymouth courts, the Plimpton and the Plymouth County DA's office, and crime sheriff's office, the whole works. And he profited with $1.7 million, sold the house, got all those profits, is personally suing, separate from Lindsay, from what I understand, all of her doctors. And guess what? It seems to be too clean and neat, where he doesn't have to pay child support, he doesn't have to pay alimony. What a clean way to get a break and start a new life with a new wife and a new child, with no responsibilities to the prior. And where I'm going with that is I'm going to share what happened to me. And this is probably where some of my triggers come in, and I'm hoping that I'm able to share this effectively, because I'm finding it very challenging, and I'm having some nightmares and other things that have been resurfacing that haven't surfaced in over 20 years, or almost 20 years in some cases. When I went to leave my abuser, and I had to flee because of, I used to say choking, and I'm learning, like when you grab somebody here and you slam their head down the floor really hard and they can't breathe, that's strangulation. So I left the house as a result with my 3 children for safety. But my youngest daughter couldn't sleep because she wasn't in her own bed. And I needed to go home and grab a few items. And I was afraid to go there unsupervised, so I called the police to have an escort to make sure that I am safe when I arrived at the house. Now here I am, I flee with the children, there's abuse, there's all these things. I arrive at home, what did I see? I saw my then husband sitting at my kitchen table with 3 young women, half his age, laughing and carrying on. Take that for what it's worth. Because what happened next, as I'm gathering some things, next thing I know, he's telling the police officer that I am mentally unstable. And I was forced into a crisis intervention of whether or not I was needed to be hospitalized under psych. Now, what I am suspecting is because if I can get committed because I'm mentally unstable, then he doesn't have to pay child support because he'll get custody. This is a man who came to the marriage with nothing. I already owned a house. I already had over almost $30,000 saved in my IRA by the time I was 26. This is a man that literally came to the Bureau and took everything, including my children's educational IRA accounts. So he was looking at other ways to profit. Days after that incident and I was cleared, the police, the fire chief came over, saw my dad helping me in the yard, and told him that he saw what was happening. And if I ever needed a safe place to go, to please understand that I could go to his house immediately, that I would be a safe place to go to. And that shared that not only do they recognize that what my abuser was doing was abuse, and understand exactly what he was trying to do was to set me up to look incompetent before we go before family court, and the continuation of the restraining orders that I was about to file. What pursued there was a series of events, including me going, I thought I had a leak in my tire. I go to the dealership to have my tires looked at, and the mechanic comes back and says, is somebody tampering with your wheels? Because they weren't nails in your tires, they were screws. We would have people walk in and our office and just walk through the back. This is a medical office. And then again, it was only while we were in trial and preparing for divorce. It's the only time we experienced any of these things. I would come home even before I got divorced, before I left him, when he tried to get me to look crazy. He would come home and his then girlfriend, before I knew it was his girlfriend, he kept telling me it was platonic. She was 23 at the time and he was in his 40s, 43, I think, at the time. And we would come home from the movies with my children, just me and my 3 daughters, to see him on my sofa with her and his arms wrapped around her wearing my pajamas. And then he would tell me that I'm crazy. Tell me that what I'm seeing is not real. And then would go in and I would put my kids to bed. I'd come down and I see him kissing her in my house. What pursued then was an onslaught of him trying to prove that I was crazy, to prevent me from having custody. Because for him it was all money. He also stole my dad's entire retirement account and put my father in Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And then even post-divorce, 15 years later, he tried to come after my dad's estate, saying he was entitled to the estate. He did try to push me to the point of suicide, just like in Lindsay's case, because he would collect a $350,000 life insurance policy. Now, what happened, what I see as problematic, is this is the same DA that's focusing there. My question is, was Patrick ever investigated? Because I can tell you, the 4 times my abuser charged me, civilly by the way, of stealing money from him, from a bank account that came from me, from a house that was legally mine, 4 times, the DA never thought that that was a problem. They also aided in covering up that certain court files had whiteout, and I was arraigned without my rights in one of those cases. And it was all a ploy to make and discredit me for when it came to family court so he can get custody of my daughters. Despite the fact that we were in the process of having him evaluated at the same time for inappropriate touching, because all 3 of my daughters, starting at the age of 4 or 5, had symptoms that could not be explained. And I know this is a long video and I hope I shared enough, but I have concerns about the competency of the Plymouth County DA from personal experience starting 20 years ago, and the umpteen cover-ups and failing to investigate that happened. And you should too.